a very important and urgent message to all of you that are working church security. Our threat level was set at orange, which is a high risk of attack. Today, we are moving up to red, which is indicating an imminent threat of attack to our churches and synagogues in the United States. Now, before we get into why we're moving the threat level system up to imminent, it's super important for me to remind you that our churches need to remain open. They need to remain welcoming so that new followers can come to Christ as events unfold in the United States and around the world. I'm going to talk in this video, I'm going to talk about why we're going to red. I'm going to talk about the intelligence that we've received. I'm going to talk about things that have happened in the past that got us up to high risk that are still concerns to us. Most importantly, we're going to talk about what you can do at your church to make sure you remain welcoming so new people can come to Christ and don't see a bunker mentality, and you can still keep everybody secure and safe. Now look, the chances of something happening to you specifically at your church, I'm talking to you specifically, are pretty minimal. It's not zero. But we have a pretty big following here at Christian Warrior. Between the newsletter and YouTube, we're sitting at over 1 million views every month, meaning 1 million people are receiving our message every month in the United States. So the chances of happening it to at least one person that is following both platforms is increased significantly. Okay, so why are we going to red, which is severe, which means a high or imminent threat of attack to our churches? Now, some recent developments. There was an ISIS follower that was recently arrested by the feds that was going to attack a synagogue or multiple synagogues in New York City on October 7th. That was thwarted. I've also received new intelligence from the East Coast and the Rockies. Now, on the East Coast, I have to be kind of vague with this because I can't burn my sources, but they are firsthand, knowledgeable accounts from police officers working these types of incidents, that there was an incident thwarted on the East Coast. It has not made the news. More than likely, it's because they're still following up on leads. We don't want to ruin that investigation. Just know that something was stopped over there. And then in the Rockies, there is a threat pending in the Rockies that has to do with terrorism and IEDs. I know that people are working on that right now. Again, we can't go too deep into it because it'll burn our sources and police leadership will go after them. So just know that we do have new and ongoing intelligence coming in every day. The ODNI, the Office of Directorate of National Intelligence, has confirmed that former President Trump was briefed on Iranian hit squads operating in the United States. Some of these individuals are armed with man-pads, which are man-portable air defense systems. Basically, think a Stinger missile that's used to shoot down a plane. These are Iranian man-pads that came in across our wide open border, and their mission is to assassinate him. It does concern me that we have man-pads floating in the United States possessed by Iranian hit squads. This is all open source, and if you head over to christianwarriortraining.com, I have the newsletter version of what we're talking about today, and I have all of the links over there, so you can go ahead and click and follow through. You'll remember the interview I did with the Joint Terrorism Task Force agent that specifically worked Hezbollah in the United States. He estimates that there are 30,000 Hezbollah agents in the United States. And with everything occurring between Israel and Hezbollah right now, you could imagine that they are ready to cause problems here in the United States. This same JTTF agent has said, and this is confirmed through information I've received from other parties, that if America and Iran were to go into conflict, that those Hezbollah agents could or would be used to attack targets in the United States. That would include large venues. That would also include your church or your synagogue. There's also some other ongoing threats that are going on. I put out information about the FBI putting out alerts to law enforcement, but not you, that large venues, including churches, they said churches specifically and synagogues, were at serious risk of a terrorist attack. Now, again, this was not conveyed to churches and was only conveyed to police. When I put this information out originally, I had police officers contacting me saying they had not heard that. I sent the bulletin to them and they were a little upset that they had not received it. This has not reached all police officers in the United States, but it has received some of them, and they have sent that to me, and I've seen the bulletin. Now, several persons, again, open source, have crossed on the terror watch list, have crossed the border, and are unaccounted for. Now, these include one Afghani immigrant that belongs to an Afghani terrorist group, multiple in the hundreds people associated with ISIS, and we have no idea where they are. But don't worry, they have a court date in Texas in 2025, so I'm sure we can go contact them then. When ISIS made the call for their followers to attack churches and synagogues in the United States, we had one young man in Idaho, here in Coeur d'Alene, that follows ISIS and had planned attacks on a specific Sunday, and he was going to attack and shoot up multiple churches in the Coeur d'Alene area. The FBI arrested him on a Saturday and did no notifications to any churches in the area. Again, links for all of these stories are over at ChristianWarriorTraining.com. Just look up for the alert where we're raising our posture. Now, before we get into what you can do at your church to protect your church, I just want to go back to Psalm 46, verse 1. God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble. I think it's important for us before we go all crazy at our churches because we're worried about what's happening. And I know deep down inside, you know, troubling times are coming. We've had many conversations about where we're at in the Bible right now. I want you to go back and look at scripture and use that as your guide to what you're going to do at your church to protect your people. So the biggest thing, what does this mean for your church? What are you going to do this Saturday, really Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on your weekend service? First and foremost, do not close or restrict access to your church. You have to remain vigilant. You are going to have to work harder, but you are going to have to make sure that your church remains welcoming to new followers. And if they see some guy standing out there with an AR-15, that's not welcoming. That is not acceptable. Please don't do that. Think of yourself as an enhanced greeter. You'll be standing out there, and as people come in, you'll hold open the door for them. They will come in. You'll smile, nod, have a nice exchange. Don't do anything that prohibits that free flow of people from coming in. Don't be checking bags and doing metal detectors and all that stuff. There is no need to do that. Remember, God is on our side, and God gives you and I discernment to be able to detect who the bad people are and to stop them. What you do want to do is maybe double your security. You want to close all the entrances that aren't monitored. As an example, my church has 7 entrances, but we have 3 entrances opened that people can enter and funnel into, and we have armed security at those entrances. So as people coming in, they look like a greeter, and they're saying, "Hey, how are you?" And they open the door so people can come in. That's our first layer of defense. You might want to double that up so that way you have good protection for your church. Nothing's really changed. You're just doubling the number of people you have. And I know some of you can't do that, but I think a lot of you can figure out a way to make that happen. Some of you are going to have to do double shifts, double duty. It is what it is. We have to do, this is the time that we're going to have to do that, okay? You're going to want, if you can, armed security at every entrance. I know a lot of you cannot do that. I get that. I understand that. If you can, though, you're going to want armed security at each open entrance so that way you can deal with whatever comes. If you don't have anybody armed, my suggestion to you is look at our improvised weapons video that we have on here, where we went to Boise Krav Maga and we talked about all the different types of improvised weapons that you can use to help yourself. Like my number one improvised weapon is a cane. I have a cane. I can strike people like a baton. I can use the hook part to grab them and pull them down. I can push people back. It's a great weapon. You've got pepper spray. For those of you in California, California is one of the bigger states that follow us here. I know that a lot of you are prohibited from having a gun because, well, you don't really live in the United States anymore. If you're there, pepper spray is still legal. You've got pepper spray and then again a cane. There is nobody that can stop you from carrying a cane, and you can use it like a baton, okay? You want to maintain close contact with local law enforcement. So you want to reach out to your local law enforcement, tell them that because of everything going on, you're at an elevated alert posture, and you would appreciate officers driving through when services are. And then you want to make contact, not just with the watch commander, but you want to make contact with the beat officer, the officer that's working your beat. That's a job that I held for a long time. They are more willing to give you information. And if you create a bond with that person, not only will they come by, they'll come in and they will talk to you more. Terrorists are least likely to attack if there's a police car out front because they are ultimately cowards and they're going to hit easy, soft targets. You also want to stay connected. You want to stay here on ChristianWarriorTraining.com. Subscribe to the newsletter. I put everything out there first. I put stuff on YouTube, on Twitter, Facebook, and everything else when I get a chance. But my primary means to communicate with you is through the newsletter at ChristianWarriorTraining.com. If you want to support what I'm doing there, you can do a paid subscription, but you can also get the free subscription and you will still get all this wonderful information. And most importantly, you'll get free training. What you can do individually. Let's talk about what you can do as an individual person. First, you need to pray for our churches, our safety ministries, and the strength of our fellow Christians. All right, we are facing some serious times right now. We know that there is a very, very increased threat for us Christians in America. We're about to feel what the rest of the Christians feel around the world. You need to look at how you can make your church welcoming while still being alert to the possible threat that remains around your church. Be friendly, but be alert and have a plan to take care of any problem that occurs when it comes up. What I worry most about these videos when I put them out is people get hyper vigilant, and that's the worst thing that you want to do. You don't want to be hyper vigilant. Hypervigilance causes you to be an unwelcoming force that is ineffective when bad things happen. Just because somebody is speaking Arabic on a public street doesn't make them a bad person. There are many Coptic Christians from Egypt that live in the United States, and they are just like you and I. You are going to see First Amendment auditors come out while you're at this elevated level to come push you a little bit so that they can mock you or do other things. Remember, we will be persecuted. And having people mock us is not a big deal. Think about what Jesus went through. Being mocked is not a big deal. Just ignore it and let it go. That persecution, we're told, is going to happen. However, if somebody comes in to shoot up the church or do some other bad thing like set off an IED, self-defense is not a sin. In fact, you should go forth and stop that person from harming your people. Just be ready. I hope I made that clear about what to do. The other thing I want you to do is I've got a free class on vigilance in God's house and how to spot terrorist activity around your church. I highly recommend that you take that class and all of your people take it right now, not like later next week when you have time. This is urgent, the stuff that we're talking about right now. I want you to take that class. It is only about a half an hour. It is not very long. You get a certificate at the end. It's free. Everything that I do here at Christian Warrior Training is cost-free because I know good training could be prohibitive if it costs money. So I took away the cost. So that way there's no barriers for you to get free, good training. If you want to support what I do a paid subscription to Christian Warrior Training. It helps me keep the lights on. It helps me do stuff that I'm doing here right now. Besides praying and doing all the other things that I talked about, the other thing that you can do to be ready and prepared and to protect your church is to remember your ABCs. Always be carrying.